back in time. One of my favorite decades. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to keep the camera on this. This is not the only topic I'm going to be talking about. Is Johnny Depp? There's a few. Like I said, it's a quick update for those who go down the rabbit hole. But there's some. I also want to comment and show you something about the trial that I find worthy of looking at, of the deception of how this is being played out. Some of you may be even farther up on this topic than I am, but I'm just sharing you what's standing out for me with you. So, and then maybe we can talk about it. I don't know. Okay, so. Oop, here she is again. Yes. Hi, Thermal Mermaid. Yeah. I'm having these spontaneous shows that I just kind of want to update about things. Why not? I got my homework done. It's Saturday. There is some stuff that I could do today, but I don't have any timelines or requirements. And then I thought I had a few thoughts I want to share. A few things happened in the last 24 hours as well. Okay, first of all, I just want to let you guys know that I did upload a new podcast on Anchor and Apple Podcasts and Spotify on the Not My Rabbit Hole podcast. And basically, it is the show that I did about Johnny Depp. I shared that over there because, I think maybe on those channels that there might be a demographic that is more interested in that topic than, what I talk about here normally on this particular channel. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Because, I think our group, we like to talk about the world in which we are part of, which is the UFO media, the conspiracy media, the truth media. We come in several different names, right? And we have our own players, our own, I guess what you might say, celebutantes or celebutants, right? In our own world, in a way, And that's an interesting experience to have online. It's unexpected to kind of be what would be considered to be. Some people might have said it would be a fringe media, but that fringe media has a lot of power. Johnny Depp proves to be a terrible person that he really is. Okay, Oh yeah, you said good job. Yeah, a lot of people. Especially it feels like in our world, right? We've been looking at Johnny Depp for other reasons. For example, there's the association to the Viper Room and the death of River Phoenix. That comes into question. His the association to Marilyn Manson. The what is it? Memphis 3. His association to coming to the defense of the Memphis 3 trial or 3 prisoners. So he's also let's talk about Hunter S. Thompson. There's been a lot of speculation surrounding who Johnny Depp really is. And by the way, the reason why I did the video that I did, I retitled it actually, even here on YouTube, because I picked a little nugget out of the trial that stuck out to me. And one of it, if you're interested in maybe watching it on Spotify or even here on the channel, because I did change the title of it. And now I need to look at it specifically here to make sure I get the title right when I repeat it. I said something like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, disco bloodbath, and film Party Monster links to the amazing Desmond. because that's really what that video points out. There was a text between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard back in 2013, where he said something like he was at a bookstore and he found the book Disco Bloodbath. And I just happened to Google it, and it's a book written by James St. James, and it's about the club kid scene in New York that took place in the 80s, and then, you know, the boom of ecstasy as part of it, and it's centered around a guy named Michael Ellig, who actually murdered his ex-lover / drug dealer. He and his roommate did it. And while the body was in the bathtub rotting, because of the stench, they decided to chop him up and throw him into the Hudson River. And I thought that in itself was kind of like, whoa. I mean, like, and in the text that Johnny Depp does with Amber Heard, if you watch the video that I have, it's the one the live stream I did before this one, you know, you will hear him read the exact text, and then like she goes, she says something like, "Oh, we have to have that book." When he says he found them, she goes, and she goes, "Oh, is it like what happened on Friday night?" Like she made a reference about something that, you know, happened on Friday night. And then Johnny Depp, you know, reads something like, you know, that's why, like it's funny to him. He goes, "That's why I love you." And then he says a bunch of swear words to her in affection, which I'm not going to repeat today. I did on the other video, but why do it? Just use your imagination. It involves the C word, okay, and it's being expressed in an affectionate way, not like an insulting way. And so that little piece of dialogue, to me, it stuck out in the trial. And then the fact that I Googled the book, and the book Disco Bloodbath was turned into a movie called Party Monster that starred Macaulay Culkin and Will, I guess, is it Vladimir? I mean, he was on that 70s movie, that 70s TV show that had Ashton Kutcher on it. He's in that film too as well. He plays the drug dealer that gets murdered. And it was kind of like a breakout role for Macaulay Culkin when he played this part, Michael Ellig, because before that, most of his roles had been like child actor kind of roles. And so it became, and Seth Green plays James St. James, who is the person who actually writes the book, because the book is basically, you know, it's based on a true story. So that's the book that Amber Heard and Johnny Depp are actually talking about, right? And then it links, how it links to The Amazing Desmond is because, you know, and I showed this, I repeated the footage on the other show. Do you remember that there's an interview of two men drinking tea, like a little play tea house, almost like Mad Hatter little tea party with The Amazing Desmond, and he's in the middle. And there's this painting behind it that looks like it has the word Rohypnol behind it, and his eyes look real droopy. And he's got these. I'm talking about Amazing Desmond's eyes look real droopy, and he has like these, you know, long eyelashes coming out on the end of it. The guy on the left in that video is Michael Ellig after he got out of prison, and I just thought that, like, that all that was kind of an interesting link. Like, I think it's interesting that the book is Disco Bloodbath became Party Monster, because these and RuPaul came out of that. RuPaul also is part of it. I found stuff, you can look at it on the internet. Oh, really? That is the same that's the same text message he had with his actor friend also when he first met her. Huh. I didn't know that. So now here's something that is, since we're on Johnny Depp, right now. I'll just stay with Johnny Depp at the moment, and then I want to talk about some other stuff. But I have this. The other upload I'm talking about is on Spotify. If you want to look at that. Also, I have this little ticker tape here. If you do want to support my channel or the Terry Joyce College Fund, one way you can do that is to go to my Patreon at patreon.com / not my rabbit hole, and then. If you see this video, whatever, you can find all this. I don't want to go through all that right now. Okay, so anyway, I'm already sharing it. All right, so I'm going to change the banner here, though, because I want to do the fair use. All right, because I'm going to show you something that happened at, that this journalist, this journalist, there's a woman that's part of this Long Crime Network, or she's appearing on it. And I'll make sure that I put this description in the link, because obviously I'm not going to play the whole thing. But she points out that she shows footage, because I've watched 2 videos about this. First, there's a journalist named Mia, I believe. I know the last name is Barlow. She gets out of a car with Amber, like she's Amber Heard's friend, really. But she was texting like in the front row with her cell phone, and I'm really kind of giving you like a really super loosely abridged version. But you're not supposed to text or be on social media or making any posts on social media when you're in a courtroom. She did this. And then there was a woman that was giving testimony that was part of Johnny Depp's defense that got excluded from the trial because while that journalist was sitting there in the during the trial on her cell phone, gave something to the lawyer about what this woman had tweeted. That was an Instagram post talking about a trial, what they thought was this Johnny Depp trial, but it was actually the trial that she was not a part of back in the first trial, like back in 2016 or something like that. But the judge didn't know that. So she automatically disqualified one of Johnny Depp's key witnesses based on this woman journalist violating the rules in the courtroom. And it's pretty outrageous. And honestly, I think it's orchestrated. And whether you don't like Johnny Depp and, whatever, Amber's defense, because basically Johnny Depp gets suing her for defamation, but he thinks like it's like, well, she's created it all, it's all a lie. She is actually in fact the abuser, and now it looks like there's fuckery going on in the trial, and I find it kind of. For me, I find it kind of outrageous. So I'm going to cut to where she comes on and starts talking about, on her own solo parts. Again, I'm going to show the very end of this part right here and then go from there.
Yeah, it really is quite odd, especially for somebody who identifies themselves on social media as a journalist. So Eve Barlow is a woman who has arrived, or at least did arrive at the courthouse each day last week with Amber Heard riding in her vehicle. And she was actually seated in the front row that is reserved for members of Amber Heard's legal team. Well, after this whole dust-up with Gina Deuters last week, there was a commotion in the courtroom, and we really didn't know what was going on because all of the lawyers were up at the bench with Judge Ascarati, and we're all thinking to ourselves, okay, so what is going on here? Well, it turns out that the reason that the judge even asked Gina Deuters about whether or not she had been watching the trial was because Eve Barlow, according to what we've learned from both a hearing that occurred on Friday when cameras were not in the courtroom, but also from an order that the judge issued, Eve Barlow actually was in the courtroom on her cell phone. She was tweeting and she was texting, and she apparently handed herself.
And that's a huge no-no. Like, you are not supposed to be on your cell phone. And she's going to go on and let you know who exactly is allowed to be on their cell phone in the courtroom.
Phone to Amber Heard's lawyer while Gina Deuters was on the stand. And we've learned from that hearing that occurred without cameras on Friday of last week that she passed her phone to the lawyer, Ben Rottenborn, who then approached the judge, showed them an Instagram post that belonged to Gina Deuters in which she was discussing the trial and opining on the trial. And that is what prompted the judge to question Gina Deuters outside the presence of the jury. And you saw that she answered that, yes, she had indeed seen some clips of the testimony online. Well, the problem with all of this is that that Instagram post that prompted the judge to question Gina Deuters was not from this week and not from this trial. It was from January of 2021. And Gina Deuters had posted about the
so it was 2021, not 2016. I got that fact wrong.
Libel case that was going on in England at that time. So the attorney Ben Rottenborn had represented this.
It was a libel case that was going on in England.
Don't know if it was any fault of his own or if he was presented this information and it was misrepresented to him, but he presented this to the judge as being from this trial. Guess what? It wasn't. It was over a year old. So Ben Shue, the attorney for Johnny Depp, brings this up during this hearing on Friday. The judge is livid because Eve Barlow was not even supposed to be on her cell phone. The only people in that courtroom who can be on their electronics, have a laptop, a cell phone, anything, are the legal team, members of the legal team, lawyers. She is not. And after this whole thing happened with Gina Deuters being kicked out of the courtroom, essentially being told, ma'am, you're excused. Your testimony will be stricken from the record. Eve Barlow and another woman were told to move to the back of the courtroom out of that front row, as were members of Johnny Depp's family and his team who were sitting in that front row reserved only for lawyers and members of the legal team. All of those people were told to move back. Well, guess who's sitting right behind me, Bob? I have no idea who this woman is. It's this Eve Barlow. I see her sitting there and she's got her cell phone out. So a short time passes, the testimony resumes. They start playing Dr. Kipper's videotape testimony. And I hear a bit of a commotion. I look back, there's a deputy behind me approaching her, and she's got her cell phone out. The deputy takes her out of the courtroom. 2 other deputies are with him. Then, whatever happens out in the hallway. She comes back in a short time later. She sits again on the bench behind me. She yet again then has her cell phone out. I have no idea what was going on or what was happening, but this woman was not supposed to have a cell phone. So Judge Ascarati during this hearing on Friday was livid when she found out that this woman had been tweeting from the courtroom and texting from the courtroom. Also livid about this whole, more than a year old Instagram post. The judge didn't have any idea about Instagram. She doesn't know anything about it. It being presented to her and misrepresented to her by the attorneys. So it was crazy. Eve Barlow was then barred from the courtroom. We first told you about that on Friday, that she has been banned for the remainder of the trial from the courtroom. We started doing some digging. We started looking around, trying to find out why. Nobody would tell us. Well, then on Saturday morning, I found out. This is why. And so if you're a member of the general public or a reporter or anyone, this is the only thing you can have, right? This is how I'm reporting on this case. I had to go and buy this last week. I can't tell you the last time I took notes in a criminal trial or anything. I usually have a laptop. I'm now using this notebook. So that is why Eve Barlow was barred from the courtroom. The judge, very, very unhappy in finding out that her orders had been violated.
Well, a great scoop that you got there, Anjanette, for sure. But I want to go down to some basics here.
Okay, so I just wanted to show that part right there because, I just really, I found it's just outrageous. And the fact that the woman calls herself a journalism and that's her friend, and it feels like they're actually even it's like they sabotaged the trial in a way. They're that desperate. I guess that's my point. They're that desperate that they had to sabotage one of Johnny's key witnesses. And later on, I'm not going to play it, but she points out that there's another person that has already testified, that's part of Johnny Depp's side, witness, and he can't even be in the courtroom or watch anything on, any clips, nothing in the media, because he's still a witness, and they might recall him back. Like, he could be recalled back. So even though you've already been you've been part of the trial, you still can't go back and watch it if there's a possibility that you're going to come back in the trial. There's a reason for that, right? Not even the jurors are supposed to be watching any outside influence, because they're not supposed to be influenced by anything on the outside. And, pretty much this part, he asked questions about that, the legality of that. And she's right. I mean, because I'm a journalism major, right? So she's right about the notebook. Yeah, that's all you can bring in there. I don't even think you can't record. You can't, as a journalist, record anything, or and now there's cell phones. So yeah. So that was all really interesting. Okay, so I want to update. Oh, you guys are like doing something. That makes sense. Yeah. The goal may be a mistrial. Well, I don't think they can cause a mistrial for it. It would be a mistrial if the jurors, if one of the jurors, did it. And then, I think that could maybe cause a mistrial. But a witness, what happens with the witness is that the witness is just removed. They're not allowed to testify anymore. And the other ladies, like the woman that they did, they strike them from the record, so they can, even though they've testified, you cannot use any of that in your final decision. I wonder if they're going to allow her to come back now, if that's even possible. But a couple other things I wanted to mention, other than Johnny Depp, because I'm starting with this, but I want to let you guys know a couple of other things that are going on. One of them has to do with, it's going to take you back, but I've done some shows about trolling on the internet, and I have exposed a guy named Lee Veltman, who has been trolling other women on the internet. There's been other women and other claims against him, and he has been using sock puppet accounts to go into my chat rooms, and I really think that he has actually still done it. There's still I've been giving some evidence of a grouping of YouTube profiles that are associated really with somebody else's channel, but they're lumped with that whole grouping. And that grouping is Lee Veltman, Jolie Bridgeburner, Robin Inglesong, Out of Mind. And, a lot of the people, and I'm just going to say this, it is a fact, that kind of like are the sect of the Paranormal Hood Club, the CW Chanter, Paranormal Hood, grouping of people that are associated to this type of media, whatever you want to label it. But, that media that we're talking about, Lee Veltman is key in his association to everything BooAnon as well. So I want to bring up that it goes into all of that stuff and more. And for some reason, he has been in my chat room, and that group likes to, like, when I bring it up, or I brought it up in comments on videos or whatever, they want to minimize it, like, oh, well, it's just Lee changing his name on all these different, on this one profile or whatever. But that's kind of impossible, really, totally, because once you block a profile from being able to leave comments or being your chat room or anything like that, it doesn't matter if they change their name later. That particular address, or email is no longer going to have access to what you're doing. So he may be changing his identity, but he on some of his stuff, but he's also using sock puppet accounts, or what would be considered to be sock puppet accounts. And I have, talked a lot about this over the years, but I'm bringing it up again today because I haven't talked about it in a while. I would like to just move on with what I want to do on my YouTube channel and not be focusing on the people that are actually the distraction to the YouTube channel or what we do on YouTube. But now it's become a topic of observation and even a essay that I want to write about it, the phenomena of cyberbullying and trolling, what we call trolling, and the term suicide trolling, where the clumps of people are that do it and what they're actually associated with. I mean, in my case and in the case of, some other people. And I really think that this is a form of criminal activity on the internet. And I think that eventually in the future, it will not be as easy to collectively work as a group. Like as if we're in, like, it's almost like it has the psychological kind of high school thing where, a group of bullies pick on certain individuals for whatever reason. And I think that there's a profile of person that these people, and I'm talking these people within this group, that they actually choose to target. And I'm bringing it up again because I did a show actually it was about, a week ago, not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before, about 2 weeks ago, I did a show which I called titled Spring Break Marathon. And I had a few guests, and I have had feedback from one person on the show that was on the panel of that show. And it had, I'll tell you who the names of the people are, but I'm not going to tell you who the people are right now that came to me because I'm still kind of protecting things. But the people on the panel, especially in the beginning, was Kevin Moore. There was Nate Gray. There was a guy named that I had on the show called the Swami from El Monte and Cookie the Psychic Dog. And there was a panel person called Not Charles, who is in fact really Charles from Project Camelot. All right. And Charles Unleashed. Charles from Project Camelot isn't the real guy that was actually interviewed by Bill Ryan. I don't know if you guys really actually, sounds like you could write a book on trolling people. Yeah. I can, and I might. I mean, I think this is a piece, actually. Everything happens for a reason, and it's like documenting it happening to me or happening to other people. Well, okay, so let me get back to Charles. Charles is not Charles. He never was that, like the persona that's online that makes the videos is not the real guy that was interviewed by Bill Ryan. All right. I believe that it was the same guy too for a long time. And honestly, I was confused and thought he was also maybe Ben J. Porter. That's how naive I was in this scenario. But now, I realized that is not, that's not that's not the truth. So anyways, he was on my show, and so was Ben J. Porter. And then there was also a friend of mine named Rusty Diamond. He was in the beginning, and then Holly Baglio joined later on, and so on. If I missed somebody, forgive me. But so after that show has aired, it's been a couple of weeks. I'm now learning that a couple of my guests are being harassed and stalked. And I want you guys to know that that is happening. And yes, it is coming from Lee Veltman and his camp. All right. Just, I want you to know that right now. I want you to know that that information has come to me. And, you know, maybe anybody who listens to me, I think that when I talk about this, I have judgment by some people. First of all, the people that are actually engaging in it don't want to take responsibility to it, and they don't like being outed for doing it. Okay, number one. Number two, I think people just don't think this is actually happening at all, and it couldn't be possible. Like, why would people be doing that to you? Like, you're the one who's paranoid, you're the one who has problems. But the fact of the matter is this is taking place. This has been happening. I do have graphics. I do have screenshots from it happening since 2018, 2017. I mean, this stuff for me goes way back, and it's not just like, on YouTube. It exists. It's happened on my Twitter. It's happened on my Facebook, and everything else that you would be associated with. It has happened on, including creating. I know that there's an email service that you can get that only lasts for 24 hours. So basically, they've been using disposable emails in order to communicate with me. And I'm assuming other people. See, I'm not the only person that this is happening to from the same group of people. And my argument is, okay, she says, so this is just ACD people on the internet who have been isolated too long. Do you think it's OCD people that just, because that's a theory that these are just people that have lost it, and they hi. These are people that have just lost it, and they don't have anything else to do, in a way. Like, for example, I've heard the profiling of Lee Veltman as, he's just a rich guy that, doesn't have anything better to do than obsess on these people. But what gets me is they are part of together. Like, Lee Veltman doesn't work alone. Jolly Bridgeburner is like a partner to Lee Veltman. These people associate in clumps together, and when they come at you, they're all mad at you together. I have no idea, but it's certainly upsetting to you, and maybe that's where they get the satisfaction. Of course they do, but the point is, the point is, see, I don't want to give them the satisfaction anymore. But it's happening, and it's happening to other people, and it's happening to my guests. It's happening to my guests. To the point of saying that they are being stalked in person. Like, it's not just online. And when that happens, that's out of line, and it's out of control. And they belong to this community. They have channels themselves where it looks like that's all they do on their channel. Like, for example, do any of them talk about, like, say, Johnny Depp, or talk about, or are they even divulging or sharing information? Or do they just sit on their channel and shit talk other people who have channels and insult collectively as a group psychologically? Right? That's what I'm pointing out here. That's what I think is worthy of being discussed and to have a light on, shine a light on it. Like, why do they do it together? You know what? I got to say something to you, electronic survival, electronic harassment, I don't think that we can, there's no tracing right now that the FBI is like involved with this. Like, I can't go and make those claims as to say, you know, oh, look who else showed up. Tom Morello. Yeah, you're a person too that I actually asked not to be part of. Like, I don't want to communicate with you anymore because you sit on Sarah Rachel Adams' camp, which also plays a part in this. So, you know, it's so weird that you guys showed up right now. Look, I'm not talking about like, I know suicide trolling and trolling people and cyber harassment is global. That's why it's a relative conversation. But I'm paring it down to the people that are associated with our community or our line. I don't even know if this is a community. I'm talking about this media, talking about the things that we talk about that even intersects with BUAnon or did intersect with BUAnon, and there's still a damn link to it. I'm talking about that group. I'm focusing on Lee Veltman and what people who have who represent the TI community. I am discussing that group. Why? And you know, when you bring it into like, oh, well, the FBI is doing it and blah, 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 blah. Well, then you are bringing it into conspiracy world. Now, there is you know, you might want to take it to what's happening in Michigan with the governor that, you know, that the reason why they couldn't convict those guys who apparently were allegedly kidnapping her was because the FBI was like coercing them or grooming them into doing something like that. But you know, for right now, I'm just examining, like, you know, like, I don't know all the reasons why people who are part of the UFO media are doing it. Look, Lee Veltman, and I don't believe him, to be honest with you, because I've caught Lee Veltman just like pulling information and throwing them together in like some sort of word salad combination, where he's like, oh, I did this and I was at this teen abuse center. And he acts like he's the only person that has a legitimate knowledge of things like NXIVM or whatever. You know what I mean? But if anybody else delves into these conversations, like, it's like he attacks anybody who is talking about particular topics. And I want to know, like, what's the big deal? Like, why does he make such an effort to be in my chat room? And why is he making such an effort to harass my guests? I'll tell you something, and I know, like, electronic harassment, Beth, I know your name's Beth. We go way back. I'm just going to say it, Beth. It's interesting you showed up right now because you have been a part of the conversation. All right? You came and started, like, how did you know Charles from Project Camelot? How all of a sudden you made it a point to tell me that he was perping on people. I'll tell you something, guys. Some of you, there's been false identities online that have been created to be like him that are actually harassing women. And I'm going to point the finger to your group as a possibility of being responsible for it. And that's just real perp material. And I'll tell you this, electronic harassment survived. First of all, I'm not so much a believer in the electronic harassment world. And I think you're a ruse. You're a phony, just like Lee Veltman is. All right? I'm calling you out. We're severed again because I severed you before, and you did the same thing that Deborah did. You're the same thing that Adam Mine does. You guys have a pattern. You kissed his ass. I know you kissed his ass and acted like you were his friend, his buddy for 2 weeks online before you turned your back on him on my channel. You're a classic perp. I don't know your last name. I don't remember your last name, but I got your phone number because we talked on the phone. You know, Tom Morello, I don't want you in my chat. I do not want you speaking here. And the fact that you showed up is like, says a lot on this when I'm talking about this topic. And guess what? How to survive electronic harassment? Tell Lee Veltman I said hello, lady. All right? I'm done, and I know who you are, and I know what you're doing. And I'm not going to shut up exposing who you are, because you're interesting to me. What your motive operandi is criminal, and the tentacles you guys associate with online is longer than people think. And I'll tell you something else that's going to be a topic that I'm going to talk about is the connection between pornography and the UFOlogy world. I'm exploring that again. And on that note, I bid you all adieu. I'm going to play a song out. Hold on. I gotta turn my little speaker on. Whoops.